living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
With Pam and John. This is SPEDTalk.
Welcome to SPEDTalk with Pam,
and John,
also known as The Calm.
before the storm.
Our purpose is to elevate the conversation and amplify special education resources.
And our why is all about the kids. You know, Pam, there are so many organizations and people around Texas who are just making it happen for kids with disabilities.
So let's make this a platform to celebrate their efforts, because special education is about making the impossible possible.
In this episode of SPED Talk, Pam and I had the opportunity to hang out with Steven Prater to discuss his role as the Technical Assistant Manager in the Division of Special Education at the Texas Education Agency. Well, Pam, I know you hate when I do this, but, you know,
But you're going to do it, aren't you?
I am going to do
All
it.
right, so do it.
So what's up, Pam?
Not much, John, not much.
Yeah,
Yep, we're here in Austin again.
here we are.
So who do we have with us today?
You know, we're excited. We have Steven Prater, even Steven Prater from TEA is SPEDTalking. How do you like that?
That's the perfect nickname.
Oh, well, good. I hope I won't get in trouble for assigning it. But anyway, Steven, thanks for coming in and visiting with us today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited. I'm genuinely excited. Like I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Oh, no need to be nervous around us.
Well, maybe around Pam. She scolds me from time to time when I'm, off in the weeds, but I didn't do that. But Steven, we're excited you're here because, I know the Texas Education Agency, right? Our state agency. There has been so much change. There has been so much work. There has been so much effort on the part of not just the state agency, but the regional service centers and the LEAs, really. We're trying to improve outcomes for students with disabilities in Texas. And a lot of people get off in the weeds and focus on where we've been or some of the growing pains we're going through. But this is a platform where Pam and I really try to find the bright spots, try to elevate the conversation, and really try to focus our listeners' attention on really the good things that are going on around the state. And so having you in today is really about celebrating the work that's going on at TEA within the Division of Special Education, and then even within your own department. And so really we just wanted you to come and share some of the cool things that are coming out of TEA, some of the projects, some of the information, and really just from your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'll just give you a little background. I started at TEA like not even 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in July. And so since, so I feel like I came in at a good time and also a very hard time, because with the whole corrective action thing, remote SEP, and all these changes that were going on at the same time, that was a hard time.
Yeah.
But TEA, so in the past, from what I understand, before I started, TEA in our special education division didn't really have the capacity to do a lot of the work we're trying to do now. And so that's one of the exciting things is we hired myself and a lot of people at the same time, and we're still there's 3 positions we're about to hire again. So we're building up our technical assistance staff to be a lot bigger than it's ever been, and that's not even counting the rest of the special education division, and other divisions that are kind of connected to us. So some of the people that I kind of wanted to highlight that we have hired for sure recently, as kind of like that we saw as a need and a response to the strategic plan and things like that, or we hired a dyslexia specialist or dyslexia coordinator, we're going to call her. Her name's Cherry Lee, and she's been very active since she started with us. She's out there. She's been at T-Case, I think, both times T-Case has happened that she's been around. I
want to say she was at SWEP.
Yeah,
SWEP.
So she's out there because dyslexia is one of the biggest.
It's a hot topic.
Hottest topics around, where so many questions about how dyslexia and 504 services work, how dyslexia and special education services work, and how do people know which path they should take and things like that. So we put out a lot, and she's put out a lot of information about that we hope people go, and we have webinars on our website that they can view, and she's done FAQs and question and answer documents about all that stuff. So
that's awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the webinars, are there any special links for the webinars?
Yeah, and so on the TEA special education website, I know TEA's website's hard to navigate sometimes, but on there,
true.
Yeah, we do have links on there about. I think we had 2 webinars already. I don't think we've put up our most recent webinar or the ones that we're going to come in the near future. And actually, there's a mistake on there now that we're going, not a mistake, but one we're going to move. The next one we were going to do
Was it May something?
May 30th, and
Yeah.
we'll still do one May 30th. It was going to be about our new statewide leadership networks that we can
Okay.
talk a little bit more about later, but we're going to push that one back a little bit and I did a webinar not too long ago for TCASE about MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. And that was one that I don't know if a lot of people got to see it because it was through TCASE and you had to pay to see the webinar.
Sure.
So I was gonna do that for TEA also and to have that resource
And
out
just
there.
push that out free to LEAs. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so the MTSS, for people that aren't familiar with the multi-tiered system of support, basically that is, we're talking response to intervention, RTI plus behavior kind of thing. Is that kind of the transition that we're talking about?
Yeah, I guess the way we've been telling people is MTSS is like a bigger umbrella word that includes like RTI has more to do with academics, PBIS has more to do with behavior. And we also want to include like social and emotional support for those kids. So instead of thinking like, because most kids don't just have a academic problem or academic issue or a behavior issue. Usually it's an academic issue that causes a behavior issue or vice
Manifests
versa.
in different ways. That's right.
And so MTSS is just saying like, if you're going to look at one area, you may need to look at the other area too, and just pull all those supports together. So that's the word, that's the term in MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, that's kind of being used more nationwide. So we're trying to move more towards what the rest of the nation's doing in that area too. So, And then another, and sorry, did you?
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just want to highlight one other new person that we had start at the agency, which is Laura Wilk, and she's our 504 coordinator. And so while that's not, it sounds weird to have a 504 coordinator in special education but what people don't realize, or sometimes they may forget, is that IDEA special education is in 504. It's still protected under Section 504. I mean, Section 504 is just a collection of laws and regulations to protect students with disabilities, right? And so, I mean, IDEA has their own more specific things, but those kiddos are still protected under those 504 regulations. And that's another one where not a lot of guidance and information has really come from TEA about that. And so that's why we're trying to have her, be out there more and giving presentations. And she's trying to gather up all the 504 people at the ESCs and kind of so they can start talking and almost forming like another network, an unofficial network.
I love that y'all are doing that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, you haven't had a 504 and dyslexia specialist within the special ed department at TEA. So this is kind of a new thing at the state level. And I think we're seeing at the regional levels as well, more and more, we're seeing maybe some SPED departments that are doing maybe a split funded dyslexia person, and at LEAs, there's some diversity and some variance in how we're, I think, assigning staff into certain departments and paying certain people. And I think that's kind of the evolution of the process that we're in right now. So it's neat to see, at least from the state level, you guys are kind of modeling that expectation, I think, all the way down to the LEA level.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you've told us a lot about what's going on at the agency, but no one knows who is Steven Prater.
Who is Steven Prater? Who is even Steven?
Prater?
Yeah.
So what can you tell our listeners about you?
I guess if they want to know a little bit just about my background or whatever, I started out as a teacher, and I wasn't even a special education teacher. I was a general education teacher. I taught math at the secondary level, so middle school and high school. Then I went to graduate school at the same time I was teaching, and I became a licensed specialist in school psychology. So I was an LSSP.
Wow. Yeah.
That's kind of how I got connected with the special education world, I guess.
Sure.
Always, or it kind of woke that up in me that I wasn't something I didn't even think about being interested in. All I knew is I wanted to figure out why do kids have problems and how can I help them? And that was kind of the best way I thought I could do it at the time. Yeah. And so after that, after as an LSSP for several years, I think 6 years, I was like, I want to move into more of a leadership role. I want to have more of an impact, globally and things. And so I went and got back my my principal certification with the idea of maybe one day being like a special education coordinator or director, or like in a district. But most of those jobs usually said they wanted administrative experience. And so I became an assistant principal. And so I was an assistant principal at elementary schools for 5 years. And then I never actually became a coordinator or director. I came directly to TEA after that. So that was kind of my path, and I'm glad. Like I really, before I came to TEA, I didn't really know much about like who's at TA, like what do they do exactly, and things like that. So now that I've been here, like, and I kind of have heard, you know, TA's reputation up until now of them not being, you know, not showing their face, not
as
giving
engaged
explanation,
at the local
exactly.
level.
And those are the kind of things we're hoping to change with hiring all our new staff and getting out there and doing engagements and things like that. So I'm glad to be a part of that. So.
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that, you know, and this is one thing that's been a theme, I think, with us as liaisons over the past 2 years is that, you know, TEA is really moving into a place of support. I mean, obviously, you'll always be regulatory, and compliance is one of those things that just is, we just have to get that out of the way. You know, we just have to do that effectively because that's what we have to do. But then that's kind of the floor that we walk on. The ceiling really is student outcomes. So how do we move beyond? And that's through support. So I love how TEA, state agency, I've heard even from a few people in the agency, maybe yourself at some point, but that in looking at other models, at looking at other state agencies, at looking at high performing, you know, organizations, that central agency, whether it be in a school district that is a central office, and you know, that is a support driven organization from that point out to the classrooms or out to those that they're overseeing. And so it's neat to see that TEA is kind of taking that approach. And I know there are a lot of people across Texas that say, sure, we'll wait and see that, you know, and that's just normal. I think human nature is we judge where we're standing based on where we've been, but it does feel like things are moving in a different direction. I think a lot of people are starting to feel like that. Many of us still live in the constraint mindset, the barriers, the things we're facing. That being said, you know, change is difficult, but change is good. So it's exciting to see it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I agree with all that you said.
Yeah, well, hey.
So since being at the agency, can you name an aha moment? That the reality is like, my world has changed.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Because I remember when I first started at the agency, somebody said, you know, to me, like, you know, it's not going to be Steven Prater said this anymore. It's going to be TEA said. So like, you have to be like careful when you're out there, and if you say something to somebody, they're going to say, you know, they're going to say like Steven from TEA said this. They're going to say TEA said, and you're kind of
on the hook
de
for
facto,
it.
or de facto kind of creating policy or procedure without even really needing to. You know what I mean?
That's powerful.
Yeah. And so I mean that's just something like I still feel like I'm getting used to that when people email me questions or I get a phone call from somebody, I kind of just want to say like, well, this is what you should do, and just like tell them like how to solve their problems. But I can't really do that because they're going to say, well, TEA told me to do this.
That's it.
You know,
that is so true.
And so it's more just like pointing them into the resources in the right direction where they have to kind of do the work themselves to make those decisions.
Did your time as an assistant principal in some way give you a taste of that? Because I know I think about when I transitioned from being, you know, an LPC or working, you know, in that area, from the classroom to the LPC to then being a director, you know, I was used to having conversations and verbalizing and thinking through solutions. And then all of a sudden, like I was doing that as a director, and people were running and doing exactly what I was just, we were just like coming up with ideas. And no, John said, we've got to do this now. And it's like, wait, well, I didn't say to do that. We were just coming up with ideas. And I can imagine as a principal, as an assistant principal, people, when you move into those leadership roles, a lot of times there is a transition you have to go through.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen it more up here, I think. Well, here's because what I'll say is the people on our technical assistance team, they're, you know, if they're the specialty they have, they're experts in, or they have a lot of knowledge about what it is.
Yeah.
And I probably don't have as much knowledge as them. And so when they come to me and they say, I have an idea about this, or I see this as a problem, or they bring something up to me, I'm like, well, if they're saying it's a problem, then they know, you know. And so I feel like in my role now, I'm almost giving more power to them.
Yes.
And when they bring a problem or an idea to me, I help to make it happen. Kind of different than like at a school where like you're kind of the one thinking of the ideas or how to change something, and then trying to bring people along with you. I feel like they're coming with all the ideas, and I'm just trying to help them make it happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're doing is empowering your staff to do what they think is best,
Mm-hmm.
and then trust you to help support them in their work.
100%, yeah, because like I say, they know a lot more about dyslexia, transition, early childhood, whatever it is. They know a lot more about it than I do. So yeah, I'm trusting them, and they haven't let me down yet. So
That's good to know.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that we have new networks.
Mhm.
Can you discuss those with us?
Yeah. So over the past, I'm not even sure how many years, 15, 20 years. Yeah, Texas has had these statewide leadership networks, and so I think they've kind of gone mostly unchanged during that time. When I mean that is mainly they've added a new network or two along the way, but it's been mainly these same networks held by the same ESCs, and because of the lack of resources at TEA, not really much. I guess what I'll say is like oversight or accountability on it. So what I mean by that is they got their grant money and they were doing good work, but then TA wasn't really involved.
Wasn't connected to.
Yeah, to what was going on with it. You know what I mean? So now I guess the big change about that is now is we're moving to 10 networks. In the past I think there were 16 total. Some were networks, some were considered projects,
Right.
and now we're going to these 10 networks where most of that work that happened in those 16 networks and projects is still going to live somewhere in these 10, but they may have a different name or a broader focus or something like that. So these 10 new networks are going to start in the 1920 school year, and we have grantees that are either an ESC or a university that are going to lead these projects for us.
Yeah.
And we have almost all of them in place now. There's still a few that we're still negotiating the activities and all that and the goals and how much that's going to cost. But those will definitely, and so what our plan is to kind of let the public know about these, and what's going to happen is we will do a webinar with those probably closer to August is what I'm thinking is that webinar will kind of give tell you what those networks are and who's the grantee is, what are some major activities and milestones that they're gonna do for us. And one of the bigger transitions is going to be some of those current networks have websites and resources and things now that may now be moving to this other new website and resource. So we want to let people know if you're looking for something from this that you're used to seeing, like from the Progress and General Curriculum, if you're looking for something that used to be with that network and now that network is called or has kind of a different look and name, how are you going to find that resource now?
Yeah,
and so that's going to be a big thing because we don't want schools to be like, well, where do I find this now? And there be an interruption in things that they actually use.
Yeah.
So
That's great that y'all are focusing on that, because I know myself, even as a director, I can think about the amount of time I spent searching for resources across the state just because they were on so many different websites and so many different, and then like you said, TEA can be a little cumbersome to get on their website to find information. And so there were times where I would have to block off on my schedule like time just to do the research to find the resources that then I needed to take down and then get to the people who I needed to get them to. So that's nice that y'all are looking at how to, I guess, maybe streamline that process through fewer networks, but then also kind of crosswalk that experience for people that are looking for them to make sure you don't have users out there looking for resources that they don't know where they're located.
and that's a good segue, if you don't mind, if I talk about something else that
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're doing this new project with our technical assistance team. We're calling them frameworks, okay? And so the point of these frameworks is almost exactly what you said, John. Is like there's so many good resources out there, but they may be on 10 different websites, and people don't know exactly where to find them. And principals or SPED directors, they're busy. They don't want to know. They don't want to have to look at 10 different websites to try to figure out what do I need to know or what does TEA think about this. So that's kind of what our goal is with these frameworks. So what we're trying to do is take all those good resources that are out there from our ESCs and from TEA and maybe from like federal things like OSEP or something, and say like, here is like one of the examples of the frameworks we're doing is child finding evaluation. Okay, so what we want this to be is if people want to know something about child finding evaluation, they'll know that TA has this framework about child finding evaluation, and we'll have things written in it, that we think are important, but it's also going to have all the resources to link to it where here's something good TA said, but here's also something good from whatever, Region 20, maybe they have some good resource. So they can click on it, see the resource of Region 20 instead of having to go to TEA, then go to Region 20, then go to this. So they know they can just go to this framework and find probably anything that they want to find.
So a consolidation of information from around the state in a one-stop shop kind of format.
Yeah, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to take all the good wheels out there and put them in one place.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So will the technical system team interface with the new networks?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. So the way we're working those is that we will have at least one technical assistance person being like the contact with the network. So, the networks have the lead at whatever ESC or university has the grant, but our technical assistance person is going to be in at least monthly contact with that person, just asking them, how's it going with this? This says, your plan says that you're going to have this training up by September or whatever. So how's that going? Do you need help? And so we're always going to have this constant interaction. And then once trainings or resources or something are up, we're going to make a plan with the network on how we're going to, because that's part of the problem is there's a lot of good stuff. People don't know about it. So once something new is created, we're going to make a plan with them to distribute so people know about that's out there now.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I found is, and I think that's part of the reason, like even in my brain, why I came up with like the dashboard idea that I did with ARD Buddy and with SPED dashboard was because one was that efficiency of location of resources kind of in a one-stop spot, kind of just a workaround to get to stuff quicker. So my brain wouldn't have to spend so much time searching. But the other was just the idea that if I spend too much time searching for resources and then I'm not aware when new resources come out, eventually what I do is stop looking for resources.
Right.
And so then we have all these resources. We're resource rich and we're implementation poor because we're not accessing and looking for these resources. And so that marketing piece, I think, is great that TEA is going to really spend some time focusing on how do we get the resources into the hands of the people that actually will use the resources.
Mm-hmm. And kind of like what you said is like knowing what's good. You can find 20 different things about whatever topic, like evaluation, but what does TEA say is good? What do they say is the best practice? What do they want us to know about? Because that's one of the hard things about Texas is the independent school districts.
Yes.
They can still have a lot of choice about
a lot of autonomy over local control.
So
it's a good thing, but it also comes with its, I think, struggles.
Yeah. And so this is going to be one of those ways we can say like, here is TEA's stance on this.
Yeah.
And in that way they know, and they don't have to wonder like, what do they think about that? What do they think about that? What do you think about Region 5 put out something or Region 10 put out something? That will say like, here is all the good stuff here.
So I'm going to ask you a question I asked Justin.
Okay.
So, because the image of special education in Texas has been somewhat negative over the last few years, what would you want a parent to know about special education in Texas now, today?
That is a good question. I think what I'd want them to know about, I'll speak to as far as TEAs versus, I want them to know, like, I feel like TEA in families and even like schools' minds is like this monolith that's just out there, like a faceless corporation or something, like TEA. Yeah. And so like one thing I want to kind of change with schools and parents is that, most of us, I would say the majority of us, we were in schools at one time. We were teachers, we were principals, we were LSSPs, we were diagnosticians, we were counselors, we were in schools living the life that you're living now. So our goal is trying not to make things worse or for you. Our goal is to like help you and like give you good resources and try to make the education for your child as best as good as we can, as best that the state of Texas can offer. So I think that's the one thing I would want from TEA stance is say like, we want to be out there more. We want to show our face more. We want to engage with our stakeholders and parents in schools more because we want to know how to do better. Once you know better, you do better. And I think that's what we're really trying to do as far as TEA is concerned.
So as far as Steven Prater is concerned, you gave me TEA.
Okay.
So as far as you're concerned personally, I have this thing when people ask me about my work, what do I want to say when I finally say, okay, I'm hanging it up?
Like, what is my,
and one of my things is, what is my why?
What is your why?
So what am I asking you? What is your why?
Oh man, that's
Pam's
a
on
hard
it.
question.
Pam's on it today, guys.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
And I'm not going to, a lot of what I said does apply to Steven Prater too.
Okay.
Now that I'm at TEA, I really want to change people's perception of TEA, and I want to change what TEA is doing. So I guess if I stay at TEA for the next 20 years and end up retiring from there, like that's what I would want. Like what I would want is people to say like, we can go to TEA. We can ask TEA questions. They give us good resources. You know, they're showing us guidance about the good things to do. That's what I want to change. That's why I'm glad I'm at where I'm at, because I feel like I can make that difference around the state.
Yeah.
You know, not only, you know, when you're at a district, when you're at a school, you can do great things for your district and school. I feel like in the position I'm at, I have a chance to do great things like for the state.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what my why is. You know?
So relationships take time, and you know, everything we do is transactional and it's relational. And Steven, so to me, I feel like, you know, my limited experience with TEA before becoming a liaison had actually been fairly positive, but you know, it was definitely from a stance of fear. You know, because it was like, that's the state agency, this is special ed, we're compliance driven, and you know, that's changed a lot, not just in me. I mean, I think that TEA obviously is taking steps to really try to reshape that relationship with our ESCs and reshape that relationship with our LEAs. And so I just encourage you and your colleagues in TEA to allow the time that we need to in the LEAs and the ESCs to get there, because you know, there are, just like at TEA, I've witnessed in the past few years, a lot of people retire, people that had been tied to policies or ideas or things that some people have hurt feelings about, other people, whatever. You know, we are now in a position in Texas to move forward with a lot of new people, a lot of new ideas, a lot of new beliefs within TEA, as well as in our ESCs and our LEAs. And so change is occurring. And some of us, like you said, we won't know till we know. But the more that TEA extends that olive branch is consistent and can kind of do what they say and say what they do and all that good stuff. Right. I think the stronger that relationship will grow with our ESCs and will grow with our LEAs. And, you know, we need each other in Texas. I think about how we are in, I think, the best state in the nation, right? We have the potential to become the pinnacle of education in this country and across the world. In many ways, we already are. But wow, what if we woke up tomorrow and we all got along, we all trusted each other, we all worked in one direction, and we had a state agency and we had ESCs and we had LEAs that basically trusted each other. Mm-hmm. What might we accomplish? Yeah. So like, I'm in on your vision. I really am. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I'm foolish and choose to just be an optimist, but I think that we're living kind of in a special time right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think what you said is exactly right. I mean, I can say all I want is like, we want to do more good things. We want to be out there more. But like what you said, unless we actually do it and people see it, and then that's how they're going to believe it, is when we actually say do what we're saying we're going to do. And so I want to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because I've worked with the agency probably
a few years. Pam been around a while, y'all.
Here we go.
What up now?
And I can see the changes. I can see, and even with ESCs and even districts, you know, there's not a fear of calling TEA. That, you know, if I say, okay, if someone calls, I get a call, and they say, well, I need to check with someone at TEA. It's not, oh, don't tell them who called.
Right. I still get that from time to time.
Yeah, it's like, okay, please, thank you for checking.
Yeah.
Do you know who to call to get this answer? And so I can do that. So that's kind of a big change.
Yeah.
One thing we want to ask for, time is up, because we kind of put you on the hot seat. I know I have. What do you do for fun? Just, you know, how do you unwind?
Fun? And or something that you're passionate about. You know, like who are you outside of work?
Mm-hmm. All right. I feel like I'm boring, because I feel like I don't have like a fun like hobby. like I don't know. Like, I'm not a great cook. I mean, I love to like cook out. Like I guess like my ideal like weekend thing, what I would do is just have like our family and friends over. I would cook out, and the kids are playing outside, and we're just hanging out and being with family, you know. And then I guess, I mean, something else I really like to do, though, I guess I can't say it's a passion, but it's just something I like, is like traveling. So like, we recently just went to England and Paris.
Wow.
And like, so we saw the Notre Dame like right before like that whole, like we were there like 3 days before that whole story like caught fire and stuff. So, but yeah, so like me and my wife, we love to go travel, and we've done some international things lately. And now we're like planning, like we're going to California this summer.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, taking the kids. Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing with like me and my wife has always done travel with each other, but now the kids are getting old enough to where we want to bring them along and share all that stuff too. So that's what
It gets expensive when you start bringing in kids along.
Yes.
I know. So my wife and I did the whole traveling thing a lot. And now we got 4 kids, and we travel a little bit, but we do more barbecuing.
Yeah.
Listen, Steven, thank you so much for hanging with us today. Even Steven Prater
That's
spent
right.
talking, y'all.
This was fun. I appreciate y'all. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay. To continue to elevate the conversation, hit us up on Twitter at SPEDTalk 2020, where you can find links to all of our episodes and each of the resources that we discussed today.
John, also links to the resources will be available at our podcast site.
And if you found these resources helpful, be sure to share them with a friend, because information should always flow through us, not to us.
That will do it for this episode of SPED Talk.
And remember, courage creates culture and kindness keeps us connected.
Until the next time, I'm Pam,
And I've been John.
and this is
SPED Talk.
Elevate the conversation
Living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
with